Greetings! Welcome back to another episode of the Morning BreadCast. We are going to continue in our series, Building a Life, a Home, and a Heritage. We started in the book of Proverbs, and we branched off into the family, how the wisdom of Solomon and all of his wise ways led to us going down the road of building a solid marriage and a solid family. My wife and I addressed a week's worth of teachings on the family, and I am continuing on this week with building a life, a home, and a heritage, and we are setting in the pillars on top of the foundation of Jesus Christ, the rock. Right? We started with the first pillar of integrity. After integrity, we set in the pillar of humility, and after humility, we set in a pillar of wisdom. And today we're going to set in yet another pillar. Very important one to have in your life, in your home, in your heritage, and it's grace, the grace of God. Because God gives grace to the humble, right? If there's one wonderful gift He could give, it's grace, and He gives it to the humble. And we touched on humility in that second pillar. So this week on the fourth pillar, it's going to be the grace of God. God gives grace to the humble, right? So we are going to pick it up in the book of Romans. Chapter 5, verse 2 says, through whom also we have access by faith into the grace in which we stand and rejoice in the hope of the glory of God, right? By faith, we're given grace. Grace is God's unmerited favor. You didn't deserve it, but God gave it to you. What did He give you? He gave you grace. He just opened up the door. When Jesus died on the cross, the veil was rent in two and just opened up the presence of God for all to come, all to have access to Him. And that is grace. We live in the age and dispensation of grace, if you can fathom that, right? That was Romans chapter 5, verse 2. In the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 5 says, even when we were dead in trespasses, He made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, right? Even when we were in complete death, dead in trespasses, He made us alive. How? By grace we have been saved. God gave it to us free. It was free. If you choose to accept it, it's free, right? And it's important to have that in your life. It's important to understand that in your life. It's a pillar of your life. God's grace is what builds you. God's grace, it's what He gave you, right? He gave it to you freely. That should keep you, one of the other pillars, humble, right? And it's very important to understand God's grace, that He gave it to you. It's an unmerited favor. In the book of Acts, this is the Apostle Paul, and he says, so now, brethren, I commend you to God and to the word of His grace, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among all those who are sanctified. Grace builds you up, gives you an inheritance, something that you can build your life on, your house on, your heritage on, pass on to your children and your children's children. Most important, right? Paul in writing to Titus, and I love the scripture, for the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men. It's open to everyone, right? But what does the grace do? Verse 12, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. This present age is a deceived, going to hell in a handbasket age that we need to live in. And how do we do that? God's grace. It's teaching us that we should deny ungodliness and worldly lust. Listen, if you are following God, if this pillar is set in your life, this grace, you understand how freely God gave it to you, you will want to and desire to deny ungodliness and worldly lust and live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present age. It's so important to have that in your life, in your home, and pass it on to your heritage, right? I'm going to leave it right there for today. Another important pillar that we set in place, right? And I hope these messages have been a blessing to you, and they will be a blessing to your family and your home and your heritage. Thank you for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this because it helps the channel and it helps get the word out so we can affect the world around us, right? And thank you for joining us today, and I hope to see you again next time on the Morning BreadCast. God bless you and have a great day.